Hi, you got me drinking. All right. Welcome to our live stream here at the Visual Arts Academy and Studios in Louisville, Kentucky. My name is Chad Nuss. I'm one of the instructors here at the Academy. Normally, we do this stream with me and Seth Jones, who is one of our co-founders and lead instructors. But tonight, he is celebrating birthday. So with his mom, I believe it is. And so they're out celebrating today. And so I'll be here doing this live stream together, me and you, and all of you here checking us out. Let me make a few little minor adjustments here. I did not realize that as I was setting this up, I have this other light in the background. So let me fix this camera real quick. And then I will get started with some drawing. So let's see. Oh, I see what's going on here. I've got some technical difficulties here I'm going to work through, but we will figure this out. Let me put this. I had this all set up, and then I started to sit down and draw and realized, hey, this cord is not working very well. And this is, for whatever reason, turning really, really easily whenever I bump it. So not sure why that's doing that. That was literally not doing that like 5 minutes ago, which is how this usually works. So apologize about that. And I don't know how to tighten that. Maybe this way? Oh, yeah. There we go. I figured it out. All right. Let me switch this around. Sorry about this. This is all rookie mistakes, and I apologize, but we will get this figured out. Okay, I think we're good. All right. The other thing I didn't realize too is my lighting situation. This is so crazy. It was all good, and then I sat down to push play, and I realized my head is right by this window. So this light source is making the camera adjust in all kinds of weird ways. So I apologize about that. This is man. Let's get to drawing. How about that? So my goal today is to get this drawing all the way finished. It is very, very close. I put in. I think we're good. Okay, there we go. Okay, I think we're all good now. All right. Sorry about that rough intro there. But yeah, so my goal is to finish this drawing. So today, I went in with a charcoal pencil and I finished kind of this border. Now, this is not the end goal for this border. It's gonna be a larger square shape behind this drawing. But for right now, I just wanted to put it around the immediate cast drawing as a way of measuring my value. So part of the reason why I'm doing this such a dark black charcoal here is so I can make sure my other values that I'm using with the graphite are correct, are the right value and gradient. Look at that. And the problem is I've got this whole thing set up so I can't shift down, and I didn't even realize that the window was going to be such an issue. So I apologize about that. I can actually move this back just a tad bit, and then my head will be in the window, and then that will fix some of the lighting issue. So anyways, next time I'll do a better job of making sure I'm not right behind a window, So anyhow, let me get to drawing, and would love to hear your comments, questions, thoughts, those kind of things. As I said, this is a cast drawing. So I have a cast of a hand that's set up in a light box just right around the corner here. And I'm using that as my reference. And this is primarily in graphite. And the border here is in charcoal. So I did this drawing originally for my drawing from reference cast class. And I wanted to do a series of these for the students as kind of an example of what a cast drawing would look like. And this cast in particular is one that our students worked on as well, and I just didn't get a chance to finish it. So my goal is to get this one finished and do kind of a series of cast drawings so that the students can kind of see the process and that kind of thing. So this one is almost done. My goal today is to get it pretty close to being finished, minus the background. The background I am going to put in later, and I'm going to just enlarge the kind of black area behind it, make it a bit of a pretty much a big rectangle around the cast drawing. Yeah, so and I will try to lean forward so I'm blocking out the light a little bit. But if it bothers me too much, I may end up putting. I think I might try and put a easel behind that just to block the light because it is distracting me. So I'm going to do that since I'm just starting now, and yeah, maybe that'll help. So I will be right back, and I will start drawing here in just a minute. So. Okay, we're going to see if that helps. Looks like it does. Blocked out the main part of the light. Yeah, I think we're good. All right. Now I can get back to actually doing some drawing. So, apologize about the little technical issue, but here we go. So, what I'm doing right now is I'm using, this is an 8B pencil, which is a very soft pencil. I'm really trying to push some of these shadows because I really want a high contrast because the cast itself has a very strong light shining down on it. So some of these shadow areas, like in between the fingers, off kind of off to the side here, I want to push just a little bit darker, just to highlight that contrast. So that's what I'll be starting to work on. A little bit of that. I also want to put in some of the details of the cast model has these kind of like almost like scraping lines. I guess whenever they made the cast, whatever tool they were using, they left some of the marks on the cast. So I want to include that. That's one of those small details that will really make this look really like real. And yeah, that's my goal with that. So I am going to go ahead and get started with the drawing. If you have any questions or want to know anything about my process, be happy to share. But for right now, I'm going to get some drawing done, and I'll stop and pause and make a few comments here and there. But for the most part, right now, I'm just gonna get to drawing. So yeah, so Seth is normally with me on these, but today he went to go celebrate birthday, and like I said before, I'm pretty sure it was with his mom. He told me earlier, but for whatever reason, I have forgotten. So I'm using a brush here, and this really helps blend or soften the shading, and I really like using it. I have not used it a whole lot in the past. I just recently discovered that you could use a brush, and I really, really like it. You have to be careful because if you use it too much, it can kind of come off a bit smudgy, I guess you could say. But if you use it in the right way, it really gives some nice blending. So yeah. The other thing too, and I think I mentioned this before when I started doing this cast drawing, I had a different light source on it. I was using my cell phone, and with the cell phone, it had a stronger like focused light kind of on a 3/4 angle, which is why you have a shadow. What I put a shadow in on here, and now we got these really nice light boxes that we started using for our cast drawing, and the light comes directly from above. So this is not like technically perfect because the shadow, I had to keep this dark shadow off to the left here, but I'm just gonna kind of roll with it, and incorporate it into the cast drawing that we have right now and do it in such a way that it looks natural. So I am adjusting some of the shadows that I'm seeing on the actual cast model right now to give it the illusion that this is the way it's been lighted the whole time. So, and because I'm the artist, I can do that. And no one is going to see the picture of this cast or see the cast sitting next to the drawing. So I'm not super worried about that level of accuracy, but I do want it to look real, and I do want the shadows to be, I guess you could say, authentic. So I do have to make a few small changes, even now to this drawing, to make that really work. So one of the things I have to change is put a little bit more of a shadow on these two sides of the finger to really make it look like that that same light source is coming across here. I don't want to do too much, but I do want to move it over just a tad, just a little bit. So I'm going to work on that here right now, actually. So yeah, so I hope everyone is having a good day. I hope you had a good week. My week is pretty normal. We're here in Louisville, Kentucky. We're kind of recovering from the rain from last week. It rained an incredible amount, so much so that the city kind of shut down for a few days. School was off and the floodgates were closed, and we're having some kind of major issues. But now we're back to a bit of normalcy. So right now with this shading, I'm not really referring to the cast a whole lot because this shadow is actually not there. And I'm just, as I said before, making that bit of adjustment in this drawing so it looks as though the lighting has been consistent from beginning to finish of this drawing, even though the light source did change about halfway through of me doing this drawing. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing right now. Just kind of, and as I said before, in some of these shadow areas, I'm gonna go in with my AB pencil and really push some really dark areas just to give it that further illusion of depth. Even on a cast model like this, there's opportunity, like in this little area here where the finger is, to put a little dark, I don't want to say highlight, but emphasis in the shadow really makes that finger lift off the page a bit, makes it really look three-dimensional, and that's what I'm going for. So let's see here. Then I use my brush just to really soften the edges of that shadow. Let me go back with my 8B here, just along the line, along this edge of this finger. Not too much, just a little bit. I'm not trying to create an outline. I'm trying to create a contrast in tone. That's the one thing that we talk to our students a lot about, is that in nature and in models, you very rarely get clean outlines. Lines are determined by comparison of tones next to each other. And one of the things that our students constantly have to fight is wanting to go in and draw contour, make contour drawings of everything, and then shade that in. And there's not anything essentially wrong with that, but we're trying to let them really discover how line works in nature, and it's less about actual lines that you're drawing and more about tones comparing themselves with one another. So let's see here. Now, one thing I am running into is this thumb. Thumb, I did make it a bit darker than it is, so I'm going to try and make a few tiny adjustments here. Give it that highlight. And I'm going to darken here, contrast, let that thumb really stand out. So once I finish all the shading in this area, then I'm going to go back in with my eraser and put in more of those hatching marks that you see on the actual cast model. Give it that added piece of realism. Now, be careful here. It's not bad. Yeah. Soften that up a little bit. Oh, I didn't like that. I did not like that. Let's use our putty eraser. Lighten some of that up. Soften it up. It's okay. It's okay. All right. Let's see where else. I need to add a little bit of darkness in this little area here. So the thing you have to be careful about with these, especially the higher B pencils, like this 8B pencil, if you press in too much and you do too much, you get this sheen over your drawing, which I really do not like. Which is why I prefer using charcoal in the darker areas. But for the sake of this drawing, I am going to use graphite here. All right. Let's see here. I need to also darken this little shadow, little piece of shading right here. Yeah. Up a little bit. The advantage of this brush too is that not only does it like really gives your shading a soft transition, but it lightens it up too a bit. If you put too much graphite on there, the brush will lift some of that off. So it's a nice, really helps out with your shading control. So yeah, I'm hoping by the end of this live stream that I will have the majority of this pretty much finished. So right now I'm just focusing on some of the tones and pushing in some details. All right, this right here I definitely needed to work on because the way I had it drawn, the finger looked a bit too short. So by putting in a darker tone here, I'm able to extend the finger just slightly by putting a darker shadow under it, and that also helps make it look even more three-dimensional. So I'm gonna drag some of that graphite out just a bit. And that one I actually might need my stump, my paper stump is really what I need for that. I've got one here. Let's see. All right. Be careful with that. Yeah, that helps. So there's different aspects of, or different characteristics of each one of these blenders. Sometimes the brush won't get all the little grains. Grain is not a good word, but sometimes with the graphite will catch the grain of the paper and won't be super smooth. And the brush does a good job of smoothing a lot of that out, but sometimes in the crevices it doesn't get 100%. So, but the paper blender can really do the trick. So I'm really kind of happy with how the fingertips, like right, the shading right in this area is turning out. It's got a real soft, like painterly quality to it, which I really love. That's what I try to capture in drawing. Um, yeah, some of the other areas of this drawing don't quite have that, so I do want to work on that throughout the drawing. Got a little highlighted edge there that I don't like. Add a little, and I'm gonna smudge that in just a little bit. The other thing you got, which it just happened, I was afraid that it was going to happen. You have to be careful. The paper stump is, it carries some of the graphite from, or charcoal from whatever else you were working on. If you're not careful, if you just want a subtle gradation, you can go in there and actually mark it up. So, and that's exactly what just happened. But it's not a big deal. It's an easy fix here, and I will actually use that little mark to my advantage. Let's see. Also got, I just need a very, very just got a little bit of variation in this area here, and then I'll use my brush, which, like I said before, will lift even more of the graphite off. So that really is helpful for those very subtle transitions. I'll lighten that up a little bit. There you go. That's nice. Yeah, that's good. All right. So usually what I'll do when I'm drawing is I'll go through like the whole drawing, check all the tones and that kind of thing, and then I'll go back around over and over and over again. So, I just kind of went through like these fingertip areas, and so then I was working my way up each finger. But I need to readdress this, and then I also need to add a little bit more over here. So that's what it's like, a continual work on. You work on one area, go to the next area, go to the next area, and then go back to the first area, because sometimes in the adjustments that you're making, it forces you to go back to your original marks and have to adjust those again. So it's a continual process of pushing and pulling tones. Yeah. The other thing you got to be careful about with these higher B pencils is because they're so soft, they can be a little bit grainy because they're not pushing into the microscopic grains of the paper. And so what you'll see is little white specks kind of coming through. But nothing to fear because you just blend a bit and it pushes that graphite into the paper. It gives it a nice smooth. Now that's being a bit stubborn, so I'm going to use my paper stump. So it's almost like the brush will move the graphite around a little bit, but the paper stump will push it into the crevices of the paper. And then the other thing you can do is use a higher, like a, go back in with an H or whatever. I'm going to use an HB here, and that will help soften. All right. All right, that's working out pretty good. All right, so if you are just tuning in or you've been sitting here for a little bit and didn't catch me at the very beginning, my name is Chad Nuss. I'm one of the instructors here at the Visual Arts Academy and Studio. We're located in Louisville, Kentucky, or more specifically, Middletown. We're down in historic Middletown there's an old church building right in the center of Middletown, historic Middletown on Main Street. And yeah, we're located in there, and we've been open since October, I think, September, October. So we're still very, very new, very young as a school or academy, and we are just having an amazing time. Getting to know a lot of new students each round of classes. So we have a lot of different offerings. We do first thing we do is explorations, which are like 2 hour segment. That's for someone that wants to go on a date night with their husband or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, significant other, or if you're just wanting to kind of get a real quick intro into art, or you just want just exposure to it, maybe a different medium. Maybe you like to draw and you want to try out painting, but you don't want to commit to a whole class. One of those exploration classes is awesome, and Seth usually runs those, and he'll take you through making an entire painting. But it's more than just like a board and brush type thing. It's actual learning techniques. So he'll guide you through a painting, but he'll also teach you the technique behind what you're doing as you're painting it. So it's not just here, paint this line, paint this color, do this thing. It's more of like an explanation of the materials you're using, the technique you're trying out. It really is a very, I don't know, it's more sophisticated experience as far as an intro to art and an intro to a different kind of medium. So we have those, and like I said, those are 2 hour classes that are offered throughout the year. And then we also have intro classes, and those go 4 weeks, and that gives you more of an exposure of different types of materials. So you'll do one class in acrylics, for example, one class in oil, one class drawing, one class comic books, one class maybe watercolor, or just different medium. And like I said, that's 4 different classes, so you get exposure to 4 different things, and that's a good intro for someone that's interested in taking possibly a class, but not really sure what class they want to take. That is a good just like primer, I guess you could say, for taking a more extensive class. And then we also have the 8-week courses. And so these are more of the focused classes in on, a specific thing you want to learn. And so those range from everything from acrylic to oil painting to drawing to comic book drawing, character development or character design, illustration. We're doing one on heads, hands, and feet. We're doing one on, well, I'll tell you the class I'm teaching. So I teach on Monday, I teach a Drawing 201 class for teens. On Thursday, we have our open studio figure drawing. So that's another aspect of what we do here. So you can come in and I'm part of this too. We have a model, and it's a clothed model for 2 hours from 6 to 8. And we do various kinds of drawings. So we'll start with a warm up. So we'll do 60-second gesture drawings, and then we'll move into 3 to 5 minute drawings. So you can get a little more detail, a little more definition in those drawings. And then we'll move into a couple of 15-minute drawings. And then we finish with either 1 hour-long drawing or 2 30-minute drawings. And those are really good because they really let you dive into getting the details down in your drawing. So that's an excellent time. So anyways, so I do that on Thursday. And then Friday, I have a illustration course for teens. And so that's a really, really fun class. And then Friday night, I have a drawing 101, 201 type class for adults. And so we do that on Friday. And then Saturday, earlier today, I had heads, hands, and feet. And so that's a pretty self-explanatory class where we're learning different techniques for drawing heads, hands, and feet. And then after that, I have a comics and cartooning class for teens. So we talk about everything from character design to storytelling to page layouts, composition. We'll get into pencils and inking your drawings, dialogues, story structure, all those kind of things. So that's a really awesome class. So that's what I finished right at 6 o'clock, which is why I was a few minutes late getting this started, because we transitioned from a class right into this. So so those are kind of our 8-week classes. We also have, like, Seth teaches a watercolor class, acrylics, I believe, oil painting. I don't remember all the classes he teaches, but he also hosts the 8-week courses, and he does adult classes, and he's doing all of the children's classes right now, or young artist classes, and then we do this live stream every Saturday as well. So it's part of kind of a way to connect with a community, but also give you all an opportunity to watch us as instructors as we work on our different art projects. So that's what I was saying before. What I'm doing with this is a cast drawing, and the reason why I'm working on this is because I do teach a drawing from reference cast class, And our last drawing was this reference cast, and I did not get a chance to finish it. And I do want to get this one done and a couple more done as kind of artistic references for the students. So this one is just about done. It's pretty close. I'm just trying to put in some of the finishing touches right now, and then I'm gonna finish filling in the background. Just gonna be a flat black background just to really make this um, cast model really jump, really stand out. Yeah, so right now I'm just pushing some of these shadows, just adding some minor, just really small, darker tones to really make some of those lights pop out, give it a bit of a three-dimensional feel to it. So yeah, so I went through each finger, kind of the fingertips here. I was looking at some of the shadows kind of around the fingers. I'm also making a bit of adjustments because, as I said, when I started, my light source changed just a tad bit because we got light boxes, which are so much easier to use than setting up your cell phone. So I decided to switch to a light box, but that also slightly changed my light source. So I've had to make a few small adjustments with that. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing now is just adding some small shadows, and putting a little definition in some of the areas. And then I'm also going to add some more of the markings on the cast to give it that added sense of realism. Let's see here. And then I'm also going to go over it with my brush a couple more times just to really soften it up. Let's see this one. So yeah, so that's kind of what we've got going on here. We're very, very excited. Our academy continues to grow, which is really awesome. We're so excited about the new students that we're meeting and the new classes that we're starting up and providing. We've got another round of classes coming up pretty soon. Right now, we're teaching through, we just finished up week 5 of this 8-week round. So our next 8 weeks is going to start before you know it. So we're excited about that. And I know they have posted this schedule of new classes, and yeah, so we've got a lot of cool offerings. We've got a charcoal class I'm looking forward to teaching. The first time I've taught that class, but I really, really enjoy charcoal, so I'm looking forward to getting into that class with the students. The charcoal for me is one of those mediums that really pushes me as primarily someone that draws. It really helps me think like a painter and to draw like a painter, which is what I really enjoy about the charcoal. So we've got some subtle tone transitions here in the palm of the hand. So I'm just trying to give just a tad bit of push to some of these tones, just to give added realism to it. think I maybe use my. Yeah. All right. It's also interesting to look at the camera because I've got the other screen up, and it really helps me give another view to this drawing. So, yeah, so thank you all for joining with me as I'm drawing. If you have any questions or questions about technique or approach or the medium I'm using or whatever, or the model, love to interact with you. Right now, I'm just going through and putting a lot of putting some finishing touches on this because I do want to get this thing done. Hopefully, this round of live session, and then I'm not sure what I'm going to do next week. I think I will either start on another cast drawing, or I might go back to my landscape for a week that I was working on for the first, rounds of when we were doing this live stream. I started with that. I might go back to that. We'll see. Or I might just do something completely different. One time I gave myself the challenge of doing a still life within the 2 hour time limit of our live stream, and I did enjoy doing that. Might do that again. We'll see. We'll see how I feel this week as I'm thinking about it. Right. But I hope you guys are doing awesome today. I hope you're drawing alongside of us. We always love to hear that when we're on this live stream doing drawings, when people write in stuff that they're working on. Such a mutually encouraging experience, which is why part of the reason why we do these live streams is really to build up our community of artists and to offer an additional resource for people who are just checking us out. Come by and see what we're working on. We really do believe in our instructors being practicing artists as well. And so this is one of those times where we get to practice our craft. And I love it. This is one of the highlights of my week is working on my own drawings. And when Seth is here, I really do enjoy that. I do like we have a really good and fun and special friendship and partnership as we teach together. And so you can really see that come out when we get on these live streams. It is fun because, as we've said before, and I've said countless times to my students, he and I have very different personalities, but that is what makes this very interesting because, as I said before, I'm a little more subdued, a little more, I guess you could say, stoic or whatever, definitely introverted, and he's definitely a lot louder and more expressive than I am. So it's funny to kind of experience what it's like when we both get together in a room. Sometimes when I'm teaching, it'll be quiet up here because I'll teach upstairs, and then Seth is downstairs, and you can hear his excitement coming up the stairwell, which is awesome. And my students love it when they hear it. So, and it helps wake them up from my droning voice. All right. Overall, I am pretty happy with where this is at. So I've got another hour to go on this. So I'm looking in. Yeah, pretty happy with that. Let's see here. All right. Well, so the other thing I'm thinking about is kind of this area in here because it's got a lot of bit of some of the planes are a bit different, so it's got a little variation. And then on top of that, it's got these kind of like cross hatching marks from the tool that the person used when they were creating this. This has got a bit of a ledge there. Sorry. The one advantage of this tool here is that if you use it a lot, it does get some graphite on it, and then you can use that actually to your advantage by putting in tones without having to use actual pencil. Sometimes the only negative is, oh, dang, that's not what I wanted. The brush kind of added some to that as well, but you know what? No fear. We can use that to our advantage. Let's see how we're looking here. Yeah, it's okay. I'll lift some of that out. Actually, that's, that's funny. You got my real reaction there. I'm like, dang, I picked up a little bit of graphite on that and pulled it over this other area, which is not what I want, but that's okay. all else fails, just use your finger. So, all right, let's see what else we need to do here. This has, it's a little bit darker in here, but I need to add. Pull some of this up here. All right, let's see. Now I am going to once again go back over each finger. I must do this like 100 times. Just go through, go back over, go through, go back over, go through, go back over, just until I get it exactly how I want it. And so right now I'm just seeing some just small little details that need attention. Oh, I don't like that mark. There is a. I was going to say, I don't know who did that. Well, I did because I'm the one that was working on this. All right, so let's see here. I need to very gently. There we go. Yeah. So one of the things you have to be careful about, especially when you get into um, this time of the drawing, is that if you use too hard of a pencil outline and it's still there, it's really hard to go back and take out. And there was just a faint one over here, which is one of those things that probably no one else is going to see except for me. And I'm just giving myself a headache trying to get rid of that because I can still see it. But as I said before, there really is. Yeah, my this blender. It's good and bad because it's got some graphite on it, and so that's good because you can use it without a pencil. But the bad thing is sometimes when you go into blend, you get some streaks. So you just have to be careful. So, anyways, what I was saying before is that if you in nature, there's not really outlines, and so our tendency, especially when you first start drawing, is to want to outline everything and then just shade the outline. But if you do too much of that, and then when you're at this stage of the game, when you're trying to finish up your drawing, and you find little bits and pieces of outline that you've drawn in there, they're very difficult to take out. So I always teach my students that you're not trying to shade in an outline of a drawing. What you're trying to do is put tones together next to each other, and the contrast of tones create lines. And that's really hard for students at first because, as I said before, the natural tendency is to go in and draw, draw an outline of whatever figure that or object that you're wanting to draw. But there's nothing inherently wrong with using an outline if that's your preference or style or whatever. But if you're trying to get your drawing to be realistic, um, you kind of have to be very careful with your outlines. Just use them sparingly, and just use them when you need to maybe slightly define an edge, but not just be careful with them. So I'm running into that because I had a leftover of an outline, and I usually usually keep my outlines pretty soft, but for whatever reason, this one had stayed on there pretty good, and it was kind of distracting. So I think I've successfully taken it out, but it was kind of a pain. So, all right. So there's a bit of a tone right here, as it like the plane of this cast. It kind of dips in a bit, and if the light is coming down, trying to indicate that. But I also want to be careful because I don't want to put too much tone in here because I don't want it to be, I guess you could say, muddy. I mean, that's what happens in painting. When you put too much paint and tone in there, it gets real muddy. When you're mixing colors together and they don't work out too well, it gets this like brownish grayish. Well, the same thing can happen when you're drawing. You can put too much tone, too much graphite, and then it looks real smudgy, I guess is what you could say. So what I'm trying to do is just subtly indicate kind of a transition or a shift of this plane here. It dips down just a little bit. So I'm using a 4H. I think I'm going to push it a little bit with an HB. Let's see here. Yeah. And then blend it a bit just to make it nice and soft. And then I'm going to go back in with my eraser and put in some of those scrape marks from the cast. Oh, the other thing I'll do too is I'll look at kind of the tones that I have here in the cast and compare the two. And so what I've got here, this needs to be darkened just a little bit. Not too much, just a little bit. It's not catching as much light as the other fingers because it's kind of bent back a little bit. And as I said before, the plane of this cast is kind of receding into the background a little bit too. So the tone between the second digit and the background is very close. It's not identical, but it's very close. So, and I add those or I build them up with layer after layer after layer. And it's usually a 4H. I'll just layer the 4H over and over and over again. And then I'll go in with an HB if I need to. But because this cast is like pure white, there's only some small areas like between the fingers or immediate shadows to the sides that I'll use maybe a B pencil. All right, check my screen here. It's looking pretty good, I think. That's the other thing I'm trying to avoid is leaving any pencil marks. So when I just went down like that, I did leave a few pencil marks. So then I cross-hatched, and that gets rid of some of them. And then, of course, I'm going to use my brush, and that will get rid of all of them. And we'll give it a nice, really nice, soft blend. But I don't want to go too far because this area is catching the light too. So I'm gonna leave that blank, but I do want to really give that a nice soft transition here. Okay, and I'm gonna check my tones. These are very close, which is good. This is a nice dark going into here. However, I can pull this dark over just a little bit. Actually, I'm gonna add maybe a touch of this B right in here and right over here. And then I'm going to use the brush and I'm going to pull them to each other. Let's see. I've got a little highlight here. I'm not sure why. So I'm going to blend that out just a tad bit. I do see there is a bit of a highlight here. It's not worthy of that highlight. So let me see how we're looking. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. All right. Good on this. I'm going to blend this out just a bit. I really want each of these areas to be nice and soft so that it does almost look like a graphite painting. Okay. Now it's got a little highlight here I don't like either, so I'm gonna, not sure why that is there. I do see that there's a little bit of a shadow there that's darker. And then there's also, I'm gonna use my HB for this one. There's a little pocket of dark, a little pocket of shadow there, and then there's a little pocket of shadow here. And I did use my brush to get rid of that kind of, it's too much of a contrast. So I need a bit of a transition. And then I've got like a kind of a highlight along this edge. I do not like that. That is not over there. So I'm gonna take my 6B, sharpen this edge just a little bit, and then I'm going to pull with the brush just to make it soft. Soften it up just a tad bit. It's got a rough little. I'm going to have to use my blender for this one. Okay. Yeah, it's getting better. It's getting better. Some of these shadows do have kind of a defined edge, but I don't want it to be, the edges to be very, very sharp. Most of these edges are a bit soft. There's a few that are more well defined, but I want to just be careful with. Let's come along there. Okay. Now, in between these fingers, there is a little highlight that's being caught. Yeah, that's good. Okay. I'm happy with that. Now, my eraser here. The light's coming out here, it's catching this edge. and that really needs to be white. So I'm gonna pull that there. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Okay. I got a weird mark here. Take that out. And then I'm going to use my brush. Excuse me. Excuse me. Had some really bad, I guess, allergies or a cold or a flu or something about a week ago, week and a half ago. So I'm still getting over that a little bit. All right, so this has got. I need to go in with my HB. So there is a tone, a light tone here, but it's a little too dramatic. So I'm gonna just very subtle soften this edge over here. And roll this corner. Okay, and then I'm going to draw some of that out with the brush. All right, and soften this transition here. Okay, need a little bit more. Let's do HB. Yeah. And pull that with the brush. Like pushing and pulling, trying to get that graphite into the paper so there's no marks and no graininess of the paper coming through. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. This needs to be a bit softer. That's good. Okay. And this looks good here. Okay, so this is catching some light right here. Pull some of that off. Some light graphite there. And then I do need to sharpen this crease just a little bit. There we go. Okay. I'll go back in with my brush, soften that up. All right, I like that. I don't like this little tiny edge right here. So I got rid of that, and I'm going to soften it just a touch. Yeah. So, all right, let's see. So if you just joined, thank you all for checking us out. My name is Chad Nuss. I'm one of the instructors here at the Visual Arts Academy and Studio in Louisville, Kentucky. And what I'm doing right now is putting some of the finishing touches on my cast drawing. And this is one of the exercises we give our students. It's kind of an old school technique for learning to draw. that is, I think, very effective. And so I had our students draw this cast of this hand, and I was not able to finish it in time. And so I do want to finish it before our next round, where I work on, or where I'll be teaching the cast drawing again. And yeah, so I'm almost done with this one, just working on some of these details here. And yeah, so sorry, I was a little bit distracted by text. I just want to make sure everything's good at home. So yeah, so basically what I do is, especially at this stage, um, I go over this thing probably like 10, 15, 20 times. I'll just go through and make sure all the tones are exactly where I want them. Just constantly making little adjustments. And I like to use this synthetic brush to blend these marks. And I really want the whole drawing to have the feel of almost like a painting, even though it's a drawing. I like just everything being very soft, rounded, the gradations very smooth, um, and just have that really nice, real look to it. I'm not going for photorealistic, but I am going for realistic. And so I don't know if that's a helpful distinction, but that's the one I use in my head. So yeah, so I kind of went up and down each one of these fingers here, and yeah, and then once I do that, I'll go through the thumb, back through the palm again, up here up top. And then the very last thing I'll do, probably the last like 20 minutes, is really start focusing on a lot of these there's little almost like scratch marks in the actual cast, just to give it that little added sense of realism. And then after I'm done with that, then I would say the drawing as a whole is finished. And then I'm going to extend this charcoal border around as a larger square, to really, even though it makes the cast drawing almost like float, but it really does highlight the tones and really makes it stand out, makes it look nice and real. So that's kind of the process that I'm on right now. And as I said before, I'm just going through and looking at all these tiny details, these little, making sure all my tones are as accurate as possible, checking for any little deviations that I don't like, whether it's around the edges. Sometimes your edges have highlights that don't need to be there. Sometimes they have highlights that are not there. And so you always have to be careful about reflected light. Since this is a pure white cast, each one of these parts is going to reflect against each other. However, it's got a pretty strong light from above, so I'm not seeing a lot of reflected light. Of course, I'm about 6, 7 feet away from this thing. So, and I'm an old man with glasses, so I might miss some of those small details. But just as a general principle, just being careful with some of these details. So this one right here, I need to blend this a little bit more. It's got more of a transition, so I'm going to use my 6B pencil, bring some of that in, and then I'll use my brush to help with that. Just push that up there. And I need my HB here because this highlight here is a little too bright. The main part where this light is striking is here. So I need to be careful about this area here. I don't want it to be too dark, but I know this sounds generic. I also don't want it to be too light as well. So, all right, that's starting to look good there. So this right here. Okay, so this finger here, I think overall looks pretty good. I'm going to add just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of 6B in this part of the pad of the forefinger, and I'm going to blend it in a bit. Might have been too much, but let's see what we can do with that. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's good. All right, I'll lighten this up just a touch. There we go. I think with that, I think why it's bothering me is because it's not blended out enough. So I'm gonna use my paper stump, and that'll help drag some of that out just a tad. All right, I think I like that. Let's pull that over just a little bit. Yeah, I like that. Okay. However, I think that's okay. This up here is not okay. So all right, I think what I'm going to do is my HB, a little bit more of a shadow on the side here. Yeah, like that. I'm going to pull that over with my brush. I keep going back to that. I think that is a little too dark, so I'm just going to lighten that up just a tad, just a touch. Yeah, it's better. Okay. And then I'm going to yeah, there we go. Yeah, it was a little too dark. It needed to be a bit more subtle. Okay. So yes, so I'm liking that. I'm gonna use my HB, just give this a touch. Touch of darkness there. Just a touch right here. Pull this in here. Okay, yeah, so like I said before, yeah, I'm just kind of going through each little part, making any tiny adjustments that need to be made. Feeling pretty good about a lot of this. Okay, so out. All right, so I think, let's see, I think I got it. 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 I pretty happy with this. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to start adding in some of the detail, kind of, as I said before, scraping, the little scrapes. And so I'm going to get my 4H for that, 4H pencil, and then I'm going to just do a few up here. There's a couple up top and a few in here. So I don't want to do like a ton. Just want to give the impression, and I want to be very gentle. I've seen some people do these cast drawings and they can get it so almost photorealistic. I say photorealistic because I mean it like in the sense they're not working from a photograph, they're actually working from a 3D cast. They can get it to look so real that it literally looks like a photograph of the cast itself. This is not quite there yet, but I will definitely be satisfied with the degree to which I think I'm being able to capture this thing. But they'll get in there and they'll do kind of like what I'm doing, but even more so. They'll be able to put in like the pores of the cast and like, or if it's on the face of a cast or whatever, they'll use the graphite markings to get the same texture as the cast itself. It really is incredible, some of the things that people can do with these drawings. So I'm not doing like exactly the lines that I'm seeing, but I'm trying to put in as a general principle some of the lines, imitating the pattern, the texture that's being used. So I guess when they did the cast, they have this tool. It's got like little, almost like looks like someone used a fork. So it's got these little kind of scrape marks. So I want to put some of these in to give it that added sense of realism. And some of them are put in with, there's some of them, I think, hope I didn't knock that too much. I'm going to use one of these small erasers. Excuse me. All right. Let's see down here. some of them kind of crisscross too, so I'm gonna do a couple of those crisscross shapes. Yeah, I don't want to do too many of them because then it's a bit distracting because it really you don't want to like they're just subtly there. You don't want to they don't want to be like in your face. There's a couple kind of towards the edge that on the cast you can really see. So I will darken in some of those, but for the most part, you just want bare hints of them. So, yeah, I'm getting pretty close on this one. So yeah, I'll be thinking this week about what I'll do on the live stream next time. I've got several works in progress. So I've got a large landscape. I call it my apocalyptic landscape. So I've got that I'm working on, which I've done that during the live stream. I've got these cast drawings that I want to do several more of. I also am doing some anatomical drawings because I'd really like to teach an anatomy course here at the academy. And so I'd like to get a series of those drawings done. So I could do that. I also am working on slowly my third graphic novel. And that one I've gotten a bit behind on. So I could do a page work on a page or finish up one of the pages. Actually, I'm pretty close to getting page 4, I think, done. So I might do that. Oh, I just realized I need to. It's a little edge here. It's a little too light. So I need to. So yeah, or I mean, I always love doing a nice charcoal, like quick charcoal, and a still life. So that's an option. That's an option as well. So I don't know. I'll be thinking about it this week, which one I want to tackle for the next time. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, that works out. All right. Let's see here. All right. Well, I will be on here for about 15 more minutes. So thank you all for joining with me as I draw. If you've got any questions or thoughts or any kind of discussion topics, I'd love to tackle any of those. But for right now, I am just going to continue adding in some of these smaller details. Oh, that's my HB. I don't need that. 4H. So as I said before, I'm just trying to put in some some of the markings from the tool that they used on these, just to give it that little touch of realism. All right. For sure. All right. All right. Well, I think we're pretty close here. Let's see. Hey, there he is, Seth Jones. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It's slowly coming along. I said earlier in the live stream that my goal was to get this all the way done, and I think I'm pretty close. Right now, I'm just going in and putting in these little tiny detailed, like scratch marks or whatever, that are on the cast mold, and yeah, I'm just indicating them. I'm not putting like every single one in there. Just giving the impression of the cast mold. Um, yeah, so But then after that, I'm just going to extend the border out around it, and I'd call it a day. And then after that, I was just saying earlier, just trying to figure out what the next thing I'm going to work on the live stream. I may go back to the landscape for a couple times because I do really want to get that one done. But I also like setting up these smaller drawings. I think people can see them a bit better, and yeah, I do like doing these on the live stream. So we'll see. I don't know. Think about it this week, and I'll probably come to a decision, and then come in here and then change my mind at the very last minute. So we'll see. But, well, thank you, sir. Brilliantly executed. Thank you so much. That means a lot because even as I'm looking at it, I don't really like what I'm doing with these marks, but we'll see. I'll just keep working at it until I get it to where I like. But it is pretty close to being done, and I really do appreciate the encouragement. That is definitely one of your gifts, and something that all of us here are so thankful for. Just the way in which you speak into our lives and continue to encourage us to push to get better. And it's awesome. I really, really do appreciate that, especially as someone that my personality is more of a dark and stormy rain clouds. So to have someone like you to come in and give me those kind of compliments is really, really nice and really helpful. So, yeah, so I've got about 9 more minutes. I'll be drawing on here. So if you have any thoughts or questions or anything you want to reach out about the Visual Arts Academy or what I'm doing here or what we have going on here, I already kind of went through early in the stream, talked about some of the classes that we're offering and some of the things that we've got going on here throughout the week. And yeah, we are super excited about all the things that are going on. We continue to grow, continue to meet new people, continue to see people invest their time and their effort here at our academy, and love to see new students as they grow and become better artists. And brings such a joy to your heart to see them put in the work and continue to improve, which is definitely something that we're all trying to do, I think. So, same as what I'm trying to improve on is with this texture of this cast model. The thing I'm running into is it's almost kind of looking like just random scratch marks, whereas on there it's almost like there's almost like a pattern, but it's so subtle. Like yeah. So kind of struggling with it a little bit right now. I'm not going to mess too much with it because I do want to, at some point, call this done. So, let's see here. Seth Jones just gave me a no comment, which thank you for that. I really appreciate that. It was so great until that happened. So thank you. No, just kidding. So, but yeah. Yeah, the other thing I'm trying to be careful of is I want it to have some good like texture, but I don't want it to look messy, I guess is the way to say it. So I might work on it a little bit more. I'll probably end up working on it a little bit more. I think it's the marks from the original sculptor's tool before the cast was made. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, it's almost like it's like a fork or some kind of tool where it's like they scraped away at the cast to get the shape where they want it. So, but I do want to include that because that is part of the drawing. I don't really necessarily want to like hyper fixate on that part of it. I just want to kind of like give it kind of an impression that that happened. Yeah. So I was saying before, I mean, there's some people that they do these cast drawings and they're able to put that kind of detail in it to where it looks like hyper realistic. I kind of like I have a lot of respect for that, but then on the other side of me, I'm like, that's like beyond what I can do right now, and maybe someday, maybe I just need more patience because I'm sitting here looking at those marks. I'm like, if I really wanted to, I could sit there and like measure each one out, make sure it's like exactly right. But I got to be honest with you, I don't really care. I just want it to look nice. I want it to be a nice, beautifully rendered drawing. I'm not 100% concerned with it looking photorealistic. But that might just be my lack of skill talking rather than a conscious artistic decision, I guess, or whatever you want to say about that. But yeah, because just as I sit here and look at it, I'm like, well, there's a couple like tones in here that I could, if I could really spend time and really hone in on, but I don't know if I want to, but we'll see. I'll play around with this for 3 more minutes. So I'll play around with this for about 3 more minutes, and then through the week I'll probably come in here, stare at it, think about it some more, and make a decision on how deep down the rabbit hole I want to go for making this super realistic or not. But I'm pretty happy with the hand itself and just the general kind of feel. I am happy about that, but there's always, I don't know, I just kind of wrestle with how realistic do I want to make it. And that's one of those things where it goes back to, what is the purpose of a drawing or a work of art? I mean, if your purpose is to create hyper realistic drawings, okay, well then this would need some more work. But if the purpose is more in terms of having an accurate cast drawing, one that represents the hand really well, then I think I've succeeded in that. So it's like all art, you just depends on what your goal is, and my goal isn't necessarily hyperrealism. I do go for realism, but more of what's the message, what's the story, there's more to it than just making a pretty picture. So, but yeah, so in these final minutes, I just wanted to thank everyone for tuning in and hanging out with me as I work on this cast drawing. As I said before, a lot of time, most weekends, most Saturdays, it's me and Seth Jones who get together and do these drawings and have a great conversation about art, about our school, about students, about history, culture, all kinds of things, technique, medium, all of those things. But tonight he had a birthday party to go to, so that was awesome. And so I was running solo tonight, working on this cast drawing and just kind of narrating as I go through my process in drawing here. So just in this last minute, just want to say thank you all once again. We love having you on here. We love interacting with you all. This is one of the tools that we use as far as doing these online live drawings to really grow our community and interact with you all and encourage you guys to also get together and draw alongside of us. And I hope you all did that tonight. But I think I'm about finished tonight. And so, yeah, I'm just going to sign off here. My name is Chad Nuss. I'm one of the instructors here at the Visual Arts Academy and Studio in Louisville, Kentucky. On behalf of myself and Seth Jones and our school here, thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.